Good morning and welcome to episode 10 of the Sporting Club Ireland podcast. Delighted to be joined again by Michael Meehan, who will become a more prominent feature on the weekend review show. Delighted to have Michael. We've lots to get into. How are you keeping, Michael?
Very good, Mark. Good morning. It's a beautiful morning here in the part of Galway I'm in. And yeah, we had a busy weekend.
We had. I'm only up the road, so it's quite beautiful here too. So look, we'll get straight into it. And we'll start with Mayo and Louth. Fairly comprehensive. Okay, a good performance by Mayo. What's your thoughts on that game, Michael?
Yeah, it was a resounding win, to be fair. I
Yeah.
don't think anyone predicted that. Really looked forward to the game. Expected a real kind of 1 or 2 point game going in either direction. I couldn't really see it materializing the way it did, but in fairness to Mayo, they just came hard, kept driving at Louth, were really aggressive in how they pressed them, and they were full value for it. And I've no doubt Louth were maybe disappointed, maybe just flat on the back of their huge win in the quarterfinal. That probably took a lot out of them in hindsight, and just getting down and getting back up again. Who knows? But look, you can't take it away from Mayo. They drove on into the final, and they're there sitting pretty.
Yeah, I mean, obviously losing Lennon as well early on probably didn't help, and they didn't quite just get going on the day. Obviously, Kobe's great flick to Ryan O'Donoghue, that goal was, it was a pretty, that was special, but they never just really seemed to get to the pace of it. And Mayo were excellent. They hassled them, harried them, and I heard James O'Donoghue say that Ryan O'Donoghue is the real star, the real heartbeat of this team, and I tend to agree. What do you think?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up, and you mentioned Lennon's injury. That was very early on, 22, 23 minutes, I think, gone. So he is a leader and a driving force for Louth. So that was a loss, definitely. But yeah, Ryan O'Donoghue, he really is like this. There's a lot of them hitting the highlights there in the forward line with the
Yeah.
two young guns beside him. But credit to him, he's tried and tested at this stage. He's really making it all take up there. I'd imagine he is going to be a big part of Kerry's plans
Oh
to
yeah.
try and slow down the rate of scoring that the inside forward line are coming up with, because he is central to the lot.
Yes.
So yeah, I'd agree. James O'Donoghue, another tidy inside forward as well.
Yeah.
He'd have a good read on it, but it's just he's so elusive. He's a very hard guy to mark. He's got great speed. He can change direction quickly. He's good off both feet. And I think he's relishing in the role where he's not just the lone score getter anymore. He knows that he can play it around and set up the young lads around him, and they've been duly obliging with some fine scores. So they're on the crest of a wave, that whole forward unit, but it really is spearheaded by those three lads in the inside line.
Yeah, I think he's been good for so long, but obviously Mayo were not a barren period, but they've been struggling the last couple of years. But he's always kind of kept his standards up, and this year he's kind of seemed to take it to another level when there's eyes, on Kobe and
Yeah.
Dara Byrne, and like Kobe again. Like, I mean, everyone keeps saying he glides across the ground. He does. He finished with 4 points. He probably missed quite a few from himself, but like, he's an incredible athlete, an incredible player. And even when that insane catch, he was given a foul against him, like real AFL style on
Yeah.
Sam Mulroy. Like, I mean, he just plays like, I don't know. He's got no fear, no weight of the world on his shoulders. It's a joy to watch, to be honest.
It really is, and I suppose maybe a lot of people like me are really only getting to see him in a lot, in the last 6 or 8 months. Up until that, I've no doubt it was kind of club stage, it was school stages, but people were raving about him, and obviously his abilities have made their way to Australia because they were on him quite early, and they have he was picked up quite early. So, but it really is. It's brilliant to get to see him. Yeah, so often. I think Crow Park is probably made for him as well. He has an unreal ability just to carry ball at pace, and to have the skill to solo and pass or kick. When you're moving that fast, he makes it look easy. But like he just always has another gear. You could
Yeah,
actually visibly see it on Saturday. Like, he'd be going half far fast and hard, and then he just find another gear to take him by a lad. And
yeah,
it's amazing. he's an all-round athlete at age 18. He has so much to learn still. Like, he's only
Of course.
starting out in terms of real physical development, S&C, etc., and even just knowledge. But it's probably the inhibition of youth that's the joy in him, the little flick, just to guide the ball over to Ryan. I don't know who for that goal. And he's taking on shots, and he might get blocked, he might kick wides, but I think he knows as well, the Mayo crowd respond to him maybe like no other as well. So a Kobe score is nearly worth 2 or 3 versus maybe someone else in the Mayo forward line right now.
100%. Yeah, no, he plays like someone who knows he's not getting taken off no matter what. Like he if he gets blocked or misses a shot, it water off a duck's back. Like, whereas that can get in the head of a lot of players. You know what I mean? And he just plays with freedom. But look, I suppose, Mayo obviously got the job done, but I think Louth's year should still be celebrated despite a tough day on Saturday. They've come a long way. I'm sure they'll rebuild and come again next year. But I think credit, they've had a great year and should be looking forward to next year again.
Yeah, I agree. It's been a bit of a roller coaster. It's been a huge couple of seasons for them, really. But this year, for me, they really found their feet in terms of championship football and performance. And while they probably didn't reach their metrics on Saturday evening, but when they look back, they turned up in the biggest games. They beat Armagh. They had huge wins in Leinster as well, or in the qualifiers. So I suppose, and they have a good age profile. I think by and large, there's a couple of guys towards in their 30s, but you still need those, and they'll be hoping that they hang around. But they have the younger crew coming through, and you have Lennon and Mulroy there, bang smack in the middle. So they just need to kind of, I suppose, let the dust settle and go again. And they've quite a strong management team as well. And they seem to love everything that they bring to it, and I think they'd jump off a cliff for them as well. So they're in a strong position. They can be happy. They'll be disappointed. Certainly, they'll be disappointed with the nature of it on Saturday evening. But they can certainly build on it again and go from here. Go from a higher starting point whenever they go back at it next November, December.
100%. No, I think they'll learn for this. And I just want to say as well, a special mention to Andy Moran, because he was getting a lot of criticism early on in the year that he was picking his friends, this, that, and the other. There was a lot coming at him. But as he said in his post-match interview on Sunday, like, he didn't get this team together till, after Sigerson, under 20s, all schools with Kobe, all sorts of things. So he really only, has had them for, rightly at it the last while. So I think he deserves a lot of credit. He's got the Mayo fans supporting the team again. And they'll certainly go into 2 weeks' time with absolutely no fear. And if they produce a performance like they did on Saturday, they will be very hard beat.
Yeah, like they have. Think back to Connacht semi-final and Roscommon coming down to Castlebar and what happened that day. So I don't think too many imagined inside Mayo or outside Mayo that they would be back in the All-Ireland final in the few short hours after that game. But credit to everyone there in the setup for just for getting things together and just picking off a couple of wins, getting the ball rolling again, and probably what you said, Mark. Yeah, building the team and building the play and the longer you're together, the more chance you have of that, just to kind of integrate the lot of new players that he has ended up going with. Dara Byrne, he's been playing all year, but he's really only bedded into full championship matches in the last couple of rounds. And he's been brilliant for them. So yeah, they're getting it right at the right time. I suppose it's now a big jump up. Obviously the final it was Cork in a quarter, it was Louth in a semi, and now it's the Kingdom. So
it is a big jump.
But they have a great history with them. Their success isn't there on Mayo's behalf, but I don't think they're going to. When Mayo get to a final, they haven't really shied away, and the nature of that team and the way they're playing, in the nature of kind of Andy Moore himself as he was a player, I think they're just going to have a pop at it and see where that takes them. Depending on what Kerry turn up, then that'll tell more. But they'll all they can do is kind of go after their own game, and I think they have a template there from the last day of what to do, and I'd imagine they're not going to change too much from that.
No, I'm really looking forward to that game in 2 weeks' time. And no, I don't think Mayo will shy away on All-Ireland final day. And that brings us to Kerry, who survived, I suppose, a dramatic enough semi-final against Dublin. There were talking points, and we might as well get into the 3 talking points straight away and your own feelings on them.
Yeah, so you're talking goals, non-goals, yeah.
Yeah, well, penalty,
Yeah,
goals, non-goals. Right. Well, the
on
second
the
one is
road,
obvious. Obviously, the second one
the,
is black and white.
the square
The
ball.
square ball. That was a square
Yeah,
ball.
yeah, it was.
That's
It
black and
wasn't
white.
picked. It is.
Yeah,
It wasn't caught, and it's
yeah,
just one of these things. Um, it might be one of the easier ones to get right, but look at, that's your hope as a player. You never want, something obvious going against you. There is human error and all of
of
that, but it
course.
kind of has to be allowed for, and the speed of play and everything, and that's why the one cleared off the line. Although we've seen on Sunday game maybe the slow mo and the zoom in, and it looks fairly much that it's gone over the line, But the speed of that happening, it's a big call to make for an umpire. And credit, one umpire was, looking across the line of the
Yeah,
goal. You could see that too from TV. The other guy was standing behind because they want to cover all angles. So it's just very tricky to call that without the added nature of looking at the screen, or someone
yeah.
looking at the screen and getting in the ear of the referee. That one can be missed. I think the penalty was harsh. And that was early on. I think the penalty was harsh. Padder O'Coffey Byrne, he just comes.
It's a
It's
good shot.
Joe O'Connor. Joe O'Connor comes into him more than O'Coffey Byrne goes out at him, and
Yeah, that was
maybe the
unlucky.
one thing, the one pointer, if you are knowing that you are inside your own square and there is a chance of a penalty, if O'Coffey Byrne knew that, and he mightn't have, because it happened so fast and he was very nearly outside of the penalty when it happened, but the idea of if the hands are out more, I know away, he comes in and wraps a little bit, and Paul Conroy made reference to that on the Sunday game panel, and I think he made a good point that
Mm.
just the wrapping of the hands maybe just brought it on a little bit more and maybe steered the referee's decision a little bit more, but I didn't think it was a penalty. I thought it was soft.
Yeah, no, I would agree. So look, the calls probably went against Dublin on the day. They've had plenty of calls go for them over the years, but I don't think it was just that. I think had they 13 wides in the end, so poor finishing was
Yeah.
as much as a reason that they didn't leave it a win, because Kerry weren't fully at it yesterday. So I think they'll be kicking themselves. They did miss some, very reasonable scores. So I think that's what might disappoint them most this morning.
It will, yeah. Some of the wides were, ones that they'll be kicking themselves over. That's for sure. And I'm thinking of, we're talking about the goal chances, the one that they didn't get right. That it probably was a goal, the one that we think crossed the line. But they had a couple of more moves. Con had a great one blocked, super
He
blocked
did.
by
It
Murphy
was
onto the crossbar,
yeah,
and then there was another one where they were just trying to. In fairness, they were trying to work their goals, but it was very tight. There was always a crowded penalty area, that kind of thing. But there was another one. I think it was Con tried to hand pass in over the top to get someone in. It gets intercepted. So they had a few great kind of half chances for goals as well. They just couldn't get a clear cut chance just to rattle the net, unfortunately
yeah,
for them. If they got one of them, I think it could have been quite different, because it just seemed they kind of did a lot right in how they set up with Kerry.
mm,
They closed down the 13 corner, David Clifford's corner, quite well. They were
very
getting
well.
bodies over there. They were gambling a little bit. It did leave them exposed. Kerry kind of adjusted, and they said, well, we can still set up for this, but they kind of Paulie got in down the middle then a few times. Graham O'Sullivan got in on the back of it as well. So there's so many fires to put out, I
There
suppose,
is.
when you are looking at Kerry. But they'll have to up it. Definitely, they'll just have to bring a little bit more tempo to it the next day, or they could be in danger.
I agree, and yeah, no, they curbed David Clifford's influence quite well. I think he finished with 1-5. I was chatting to Conor Myler the other day. I said on a quiet day he'll score 1-6. So it was a quiet day. He scored 1-5, I think it was. But they gave Paddy the freedom of the park again, and Paddy looks now like he's coming back into a bit of sharpness, a bit of form, and I don't think Mayo will offer him the same luxury. As you said, there's a lot of fires to put out, so I guess you have to pick your battles, but I'm quite confident Andy Moran won't be leaving the space at Croke Park to Paddy Clifford in 2 weeks' time.
No, they'll go after him. I think they're right to Donegal in Killarney in the shock, one of the shocks of the season when they turned Kerry over. Finbar Rorty did a really high press man marking job on Paddy that day, and it worked quite well. Now, in fairness to Paddy, he had missed a lot of the season before that,
Yeah,
So he's back now, and he looks a game like a semi-final like that, like a big game like that, where he handles so much ball. I think he kicks 5 points. He was dominant. That's going to do him the world of good in terms of his confidence going into the final now. So even if he is man marked, I think he'll still be backing himself to have a big impact on the game. But I think you would think that Mayo will go after him in a big way and look to try and put him on the back foot as much as possible. Easier
Yeah,
said than done.
100%. No, I mean, as you said, so many fires. Do you think Inda Hessian might get that job? Sorry, not trying to look too far ahead,
Yeah,
but who might they put on party on the
could
day?
do. In the Hessian, Sam Callan might be the other one as well. One of the two lads. You need a big engine. You need speed. That they
Yeah.
both have that. So yeah, it could be a good shout for either or there.
And Shawnee O'Shea had another game under his belt. Again, another man coming back to sharpness. So another 2 weeks will help him. Tom O'Sullivan didn't get any game time. He was on the bench. So, look, they'll come in all guns blazing, but I'm sure Andy Moore will be hatching a plan as well as Jack O'Connor. So it should be a hell of a game. And look, Ger Brennan, he's, as soon as he came back, like, Dublin looked the part. So maybe they're not going away. Maybe there's not as big a transition. And he did well with Louth, so maybe Dublin have a lot to look forward to as well in the coming years. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm sure they do. We look at they've seesawed a little bit, and they've been written off, and they've bounced back, and like even the nature of that, they if some of the things we've talked about go the other way, Dublin are in an All Ireland final, and they are back. That's the long and the short of it. So it's just so close for them. So yeah, the way it started from where it started to where it finished out for Ger Brennan, I'm sure he's a relieved man. That he seems to got the chance to put his impact on the team, and you can see it in their style of play. He's very much they kick. Now they can't do it every day, and they couldn't do it much yesterday because Kerry knew that. But they put on an exhibition against Galway when they were let do it in terms of direct kicking from Niall Scully and players like that hitting Conor Callahan and Costello on the full forward line. So he's going to have another pre-season to try and work that what he wants them to do into them even more. They've brought in a lot of players, a lot of the new players like Morrow and Kennedy and lads at the back. They've done well. There was times when they looked quite porous in earlier rounds of the knockout or in the group stage as we call them, and they seem to get that together quite well. They dealt with Kerry as well as anyone has this year. You would argue kept them to quite a low score in relevant terms to football scoring nowadays. So they'll take a lot of positives, and I'm sure Gerard will as well.
Yeah, I'm sure Mayo will be looking at that blueprint. So this question might be a tricky one, but I mean, do you think either team carries more momentum into the final, or just both happy to be there?
Well, Mayo are bringing a bit more momentum, I think, in terms of just from where they've come from. But Kerry will be very happy to have gotten over that game. It's a big test. There's no doubt. The Kerry Dublin thing is huge. That rivalry, that the tradition that it brings. So they sort of bring out the best in each other, I think, as well. So or certainly Kerry brought the best out in Dublin, I think, yesterday. So they'll have to just kind of bed down a little bit, but I think Kerry are going to be happy with where they're at. They're going to be happy where they're at. They're going to be happy with who they're playing. I think they're going to respect them. They're going to absolutely respect them, but they're going to back themselves to put in a performance on the biggest day. Mayo then kind of have to do the same, but it's coming in as an underdog really, and the leverage you try and get off that is different. So they're definitely on different platforms, but it's how they can go at it, and if Kerry are flat and Mayo are up and flying, then we have a game on.
Oh, no, it's exciting. And now we'll move on to, I suppose, one of the stories of the weekend, and what a comeback by Wicklow. Was it, I think, 13 points down at halftime against Down?
12 at halftime, I think, and maybe 13 just shortly after halftime.
Maybe, okay. Incredible stuff, though.
It was, and I think maybe in their game with Offaly, they might have been 8 or 9 down at halftime as well. So they have history at this, right? But it was I didn't get to see it live now because we were fine weather, we were barbecuing, we were in the paddling pool, and you know yourself, Mark, things you got to do. But absolutely made it my business to get up early on Sunday morning just to watch it start to finish, and like it was, obviously I knew what had happened, and I was kind of keeping a half an eye on it live, but it was brilliant. You know, it really is the second half. I suppose they got to half time, 12 down. What you know, down had kind of wiped them out. They had wiped them out in terms of they'd won all their own kickouts. They dominated possession. They kind of played at their own pace. They were very much just in control, and you know that was the tale of the story. The tale of half time, and I suppose Wicklow then just credit to the players and the management, Oisin McConville. What at halftime, I suppose a dose reality really was administered in terms of like, is this how we want to be remembered? Is this going to define our last game of the season? And they just came out a different team. They just came out a different team. They kind of the shackles were off, and they had the energy and the drive in the second half, and they just went up through the gears. Like as they got from 12 points down to 8 points down, okay, they were chasing harder, to 6 points down, they were chasing harder again, and the belief was building and building. And the flip side for Down was you could kind of just see like they had opportunities to chase and tackle and track back, and you'd kind of say they had the energy was gone from them.
Yeah.
They didn't want it, and it's an awful thing. What is wanting it in sport? But the intensity levels just Down fell off the charts, and Wicklow went through the roof, and that's what gave them their chance, and they duly obliged. And like it wasn't straightforward because they were down a man. They got their black card with maybe 8 minutes to go, and the first thing they do after the black card is they win their own kick out short, a man down, and they go down and get a point. Like, and that's just to do that is
incredible.
Massive. They deserve a lot of credit. The players, the belief that Oisin McConville is working with them a good while now, and he's a proven winner himself, so he's obviously bringing that to the table. But yeah, that was the story of the weekend for me. In fairness, that performance, Dean Healy's goal, like, brilliant.
Yeah. I didn't think he was going to take it on, like, and the side foot as well, like that's a very hard skill. So that was class, and they said in the commentary, his energy seems to go up as the game goes on, and he's no spring chicken. So, and he's been a stalwart at Wicklow. GA wouldn't be familiar with them, so fair play.
No, he spoke very well after just receiving the trophy, and talking about the boys and the girls watching on, and like if it's very true. But if he can get there, anyone can. And I just thought he spoke well. He hit the right notes, and I suppose with the GA Plus work that I do, Mark, I've watched them a little bit over this year and last year, and last year they went very close, and this year they went very close in Leinster. They pushed Dublin all the way. So they were two games that I would have looked at closely, probably in hand up more from the Dublin perspective rather than the Wicklow perspective. But you got to know some of the players, and Dean Healy he's all every day. He is the driving force there every day he goes out. So yeah, delighted for him.
Yeah, so Aoife heard something on one of the podcasts during the week that they felt Down were probably playing this to kind of get back to the Sam Maguire, and Wicklow are actually playing it to get their hands on the Tailteann Cup, and how much that would mean to them. And that probably showed at the end. Like Kevin Quinn looks an unbelievable footballer as well. So they've good footballers all around the park. And whatever Oisin said at halftime, I'd love to have been a fly on the wall for that, because it worked, and I'm sure you probably couldn't play it on too many podcasts or anything like that. Not PG, but it works. So look, it was brilliant, and you see the fans they had there in the day. I don't know how many, but like they were making noise. You could even hear it through the TV, and like it's massive for a county like Wicklow. And as Oisin said, why not them? Why not them? Why can't they push on now? You know what I mean? This will inspire, as you said, a younger generation. So yeah, what a performance, what a comeback. Like, I thought they were going to lose by 50 points. I honestly did. I thought Down were just in cruise control. They probably threw it away a little bit as well. Like, Odrin Murdoch is a good player. Like, if you look back at some of the stuff he missed on the day, like it's not like him, and they had plenty of chances. So they'll be very disappointed.
They will, and they will, because like you look at it from the perspective of where they were at and what they did in round one in Letterkenny to Donegal, and I was up there, and it was an amazing performance. It was stunning, really was. And I suppose the highs of that and the energy of that, then just they just fell off. Armagh, put a cricket score up on them, and they just never got going again. But they fell into the Tailteann Cup, and because they're such a good side, they were able to get over and get through the rounds in that and make their way to the final, and probably expected that they'd have enough in the tank, but just really, I suppose, it came down to the energy and the intensity and the want just over the full course of the 70 minutes. Wicklow shaded that, or Wicklow dominated in that, and
Yeah,
but they just got over the line. Like Wicklow just get over the line, and they had goal line clearances, and things went their way. Like you said, I think in the last 7 or 8 minutes, all the attacks that Down had, like there was a wide, there was a hit the post, there was a short, there was another wide. So they had chances to put it to extra time, and they probably backed themselves that eventually one of them would go over, but it just kind of the writing was on the wall a little bit, and it was Wicklow's name who was on the cup, and that's the way it goes. And now Wicklow know they're in Sam Maguire next year, come
exactly.
hell or high water, and
It's fantastic.
and Down, really have to, we'll have to kind of, that was the safety net of winning Tailteann Cup, is that locked in guarantee. But anyway, look at that's for next year.
It is. Congratulations to Wicklow. So I don't think you got a chance to watch the rugby at the weekend, so I'll fly through the rugby myself. So Ireland made it 2 wins from 2. Messy type of game. They never really got going. Wasn't their best performance. Still have some issues with line out and scrum. But Sean Jansen was incredible on debut. Some of the young guys, Sam Elo, Billy Bohan, and Bryn Ward were great on debut. And there were some other good performances: Nick Timoney, Jack Conan, Tom Stewart, Jimmy O'Brien. So look, probably not the most best performance they've had heading into Eden Park next week. But look, they'll be happy they're 2 from 2. They blooded some young guys with the World Cup, getting closer now. So
there was 8 or 9 changes from the last game, wasn't there? And
there was.
So that's good, and I'm sure they're going to revert to type maybe a little bit for next weekend.
They will revert to type, and so Kieran Frawley got his chance at 10, right, Michael? And I don't know if you're ever in this position in your career. So he's been thereabouts for so long, but he's, for whatever reason, he just never gets the chance. He always plays well off the bench. He always looks a fantastic player, but they never give him the keys to the kingdom. And he, for me, played like a man who had the whole weight of the world on his shoulder. His first touch, he blocked down, never doesn't get blocked down normally. Next pass to the ground. So he just looked like he knew that the narrative in the media was, but the narrative in the media was, if he doesn't produce, that's him. He's gone back to the back of the pecking order. And that's a tough position to be in. So I felt really sorry for him, because I think our 10s get a lot of scrutiny, a lot of pressure. Sam Prendergast, so much maligned, Jack even, so that was the thing for me. It just didn't go for him on the day, and I felt sorry for him, because probably a man trying too hard. And if you were told by any of your managers back in the day, Michael, if you don't score 1-6 today, you're never playing again, I imagine you probably weren't going to score 1-6.
Exactly. That is the guaranteed thing that will happen there. So it's a tricky situation, especially, I suppose, trying to fill Johnny's boots, and the dynamic that's coming after that.
And Ronan O'Gara as well. You got to remember Ronan O'Gara. So
for sure. So who's got the ball in their court for next weekend then, in your opinion?
Well, Sam Prendergast will probably start. I think he was always going to start against New Zealand anyway, but this was Kieran's chance to kind of maybe get the bench spot, which he might get anyway, because he's less pressure coming off the bench. But I think there's enough in him to really challenge for that starting jersey. It's just, I guess
Sam has definitely gotten kind of the time. They've loaded on Sam to try to get him up, to train him up to the level, but it's still not a done deal either. Like there's still enough of a kind of a doubt there, I think, that they're not just locked in on him 100%.
100%, yeah, and that's exactly it. Look, I like Sam, I like Jack, I like Harry, I like Kieran, I like them all, because you want to see the Irish 10s doing well. But look, Sam, unfortunately, he hasn't filled into his body yet, number one. So, and he does try in defence, but it's certainly his weakest aspect of his game. When he's attacking, he's obviously doesn't have that power in the carry yet, because he is light, and he doesn't probably quite take the line, so brings a little bit of pressure onto our guys. So Sam will have the keys this Saturday. New Zealand are going well. It'll be a tough game because they're playing well. Dave Rennie's brought a bit steel back to them. I'm not sure. I think Andy will probably revert back to most of the Australian team. It'll be interesting to see the Sean Jansen, after such a great performance, make the bench, maybe one of the young props, and yeah, probably the number 6 as well. Like, that's probably the only other question mark. I think the team otherwise would be the same as Australia, but something to look forward to on Saturday morning, and to fly through the other results. New
Before you
Zealand.
go,
Oh yeah.
just on New Zealand
Yes.
and Will Jordan.
Yes.
He did you see that?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, 50 test tries in 56 caps.
Yeah, it's incredible.
He's now he passed Doug Howlett, who we all know, who was on 49. I think that's ridiculous stat.
Oh, unbelievable! It was another hat trick from this weekend. Like, I don't know how many hat tricks he's got, but his strike rate in international rugby is incredible, and he's mixed it between fullback and wing. So, yeah, look, I mean, Italy gave it plenty. They were game for the first half, but once the All Blacks kind of flicked a switch for 13 minutes in the second half, they kind of blew them away. But Italy happy enough. New Zealand tracking in the right direction. France, again, they were 21-12 down at halftime. I think it was 42-26 final score. But, I mean, their depth, them and South Africa, their depth is unmatched. Like, both can put out nearly 3 teams.
We get to it later, a bit like the French football team, soccer team,
Yeah, we're getting to that very soon. England hammered Fiji, but there's something wrong. There's something not right in the Fiji camp at the moment. Like, 73-8, a silly red card, but even without the red card, they just look badly coached. They have the athletes, they have the rugby players that are in the best teams in the world, but they just look miles off it since they got rid of, I think it was Mick Burden. So there's something rotten in the Fiji camp at the moment, but England back on track. And then South Africa. This game was incredible. They beat Scotland 42-28. Now, Scotland, like they do, they were punching. They gave everything. It was a hell of a performance. This was a fast-paced game. South Africa were down to second, third, fourth choice players in some positions, and somehow, because it's in them, instilled in them, they know how to win. And they were on the ropes for a lot of this game. It was an incredible test match. If you're going to watch any of the weekend, that's the one I'd pick. But South Africa got it done again, and them and France are they're setting the standard. And
it's ominous.
Well, it is. It is. It scares me. Now, the Football World Cup. Did you catch much of this?
We did, yeah. Gosh, geez, I'm trying to think back when it started. Yeah, it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it didn't wait up through the night for Argentina.
No,
but they got it done. I suppose England watched the England game.
I watched that as well,
and it was
Norway. Would be disappointed.
There was a chance. Norway 1-0 up, and if the ball is squared to Haaland, I think that's 2-0, and I think it's very hard to come back from that. But
coach killer. What do you think? What do you think as well? Like, so the Norwegian kick out hit the camera, so it bounced straight down. I spotted that at the time. I said, "What happened there, Tifa?" And that shouldn't have been allowed but that's a bit of luck.
It is. It's horrible luck, really. And I know the balls have sensors in them, but obviously we're told they didn't trigger on that, which is, I find, hard to believe. But it was a massive moment. It's a little bit going back to, we want the technology in GAA for the goal line. Was it over the line? Was it not over the line? They have the technology, and it didn't show up anything there, or we're led to believe it didn't, which I find hard to believe, because the trajectory of the ball, definitely it dropped fast, but
it did.
It was a great finish. It was a great goal. And England were probably good for it in the end. And you know what? I probably fancy them to, for what it's worth, I probably fancy them to get to the final now.
Oh yeah, no, I think they'll beat Argentina as well. I think they
have a bit of a momentum behind them.
Yeah, they've stuttered and stumbled, but as well, just Haaland's push. I mean, it was a bit dramatic, his push, and probably your man's fall, but like every corner, it's like a Royal Rumble. So it was unfortunate that was another goal ruled out. So I think Norway will feel hard done by. But England, as you said, momentum. Jude Bellingham's playing very well. They still have Harry Kane to come up with the goods when he's needed. So I think they'll beat Argentina, and then Tuesday, France and Spain. That'll be a chess match.
It will, yeah. I think Spain will want to keep it tight. I don't blame them, but it just, and I watched France as well, and they, eventually, get the goal to get going. But it's just they're just a brilliant to watch. They're just the flair they have. I have to say, and I'm usually watching with the kids here, and they're playing soccer with the local club here, and they're loving it. But like, these are the lads that they're drooling over because of the speed and the skill and everything that they can do. So yeah, I think Spain will try and pass around them, so play it their way. But you'd have to say France. I want to see France get to the final. Definitely,
Oh, I want to see France win
want to
it.
see them win it at this stage.
Yeah, like Dembele, Mbappe, Doué or Barcola, and like
Yeah,
they've strength everywhere.
crazy.
Like it is like, I mean, they're so dangerous going forward. They're the best football team in my opinion by far.
Yeah.
And I think Spain will keep it tight for a bit, and maybe they'll be looking maybe to maybe get it to extra time penalties and stuff. But I just think they're a better football team. So we both say a France-England final.
France, England final, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you watch any golf?
A little bit, yeah. A little
So
bit. We watched this week coming now.
yeah, so look, obviously, yeah, the Scottish Open was a bit of interest because always the build-up. So
Yeah.
I think Rory finished seventh. Tom Kim ended up winning it. Bob McIntyre was close to winning his, well, he fell away in the end. But how do you think will the Irish lads fare this weekend? Obviously, it's a big weekend in the golf calendar.
Yeah, I suppose. Look, I say I'm like every Irish person here who's into the sport and watch a bit of everything, watching golf, and you're kind of wondering about Rory and Shane, and obviously, Rory is going to be right in the mix. And you always get the sense, though, even irrespective of Shane's recent form, you always just get a sense that he can do something,
Yeah,
and I think the links is something that he's probably fairly good at, and you just get a sense that even he can kind of come out of nowhere. So there'll always be like a small people putting on the small bet on
yeah,
on Shane Lowry to get it done,
yeah,
but it's going to be a big one. In fairness, I think when you talk about the Scottish Open and probably the form line that you can read from that, and if there is one, you'd have to say Matt Fitzpatrick is kind of worth looking at as well. There, he comes in with
100%.
the tie for third. He's down as a links player as well. So someone like him, if he can carry through, he should be near the top. But it's a great one to watch. In fairness, it's hugely enjoyable. It's just there's so much on. We have World Cup final on Sunday. We have All Ireland final on Sunday. So
Yeah.
that's going to be a big day of sport. I don't know
I'm
how you're
still
going to
waiting.
watch it all.
Well, I'm still waiting for my tickets for the hurling final, so I might actually be watching it on the couch. So such is life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So back to that in a minute. Okay. So then, right, final thing for today. Final two things. So performance of the weekend, and this is who I have for you. So Ryan O'Donoghue, Paddy Clifford, Sean Jansen, Dean Healy, Andy Moran are just Wicklow the whole second half performance. What's your thoughts?
Well, I answered this already. About I'm giving it to Wicklow.
Yeah.
Genuinely, yeah. I just for what it's going to do for the county and in full. Just that second half, I just you just and the crowd, the noise, like you said, that you could hear it clearly through the TV. The noise and the energy from the crowd and the belief just grew right through that second half to come from 12 and 13 points down. And to hang on for a finish, play out the last 8 minutes or so down a man, and just get enough to get ahead and stay ahead and ride your luck. But yeah, I think it was their weekend, so I'm giving it to Wicklow.
No, that's fair. Well, listen, not to both give it to Wicklow, I'll give it to Ryan O'Donoghue. It'll be a lot more prestigious coming from you. And then I haven't decided what to call this yet, so it was either the big call or on the record or the verdict. But anyways,
Okay.
who wins Limerick and Galway?
Oh, look at you're asking a Galway man there, and there's going to be an element of head and heart. But I suppose I was up at the semi-final against Cork, and geez, it was brilliant. It was a tonic. It was a super performance by Galway. They just brought everything, brought the energy, had the belief. They saw it out. I was really impressed by them. I was really impressed by them to a man. Like lads like Ronan Glynn, I think for me he was man of the match that day. I think they had to give it to Rabbit, but they just had the young guns stood up. All the old guard, were there and strong and kind of guided them along the way as well. And then a little bit the same on Sunday. Like it was guys like, Garrett Hegarty in the end that kind of helped get Limerick over the line. Because Clare should have got the, I thought watching that Clare were going to do, Clare were the underdog, Galway were the underdog the previous day, and kind of wrote the script. Clare did their very, very best, just couldn't get those scores in the second half to kind of really put the pressure on Limerick, and Limerick, in fairness, got there. So if Limerick are going to be the favourites, I'm going to go up, expecting Galway to put in a big performance. The last day I went up kind of expecting a performance from Galway and kind of wondering, the last time I really saw Cork was a Munster final, and I kind of felt that was a game that they should have won, but didn't, and could have, and just didn't. And I just kind of had a question mark, and that was to Limerick. And then a little bit the last in the semi-final, like, Limerick really, Clare let them off the hook. So I'm just wondering, are Limerick gone off the boil a little bit, but they've got the big guns back in the final.
They do.
I should be saying Limerick. Long-winded story. I should be saying Limerick, but I'm Galway going to win.
Yeah, well, I go with Galway as well. So, and just for a bit of crack, if Galway do win, who'll be your man of the match on the day?
Oh, jeez.
Just pick a player. It's going to be easy. I go Cathal Mannion.
You can't just pick a player. But yeah, that's Cathal is a good shout. Cathal is a good shout.
I'll have better questions next week.
He's one of the lads. He's been doing it all year. I know Cathal well. He's over the road from me here. Himself and Porrick are, leaders in that team now. Cathal has been kind of the focal point, definitely the quarterback role for Galway. And if it's not him, it could be someone like Aaron Nyland in the corner who's going to shoot the lights out from dead ball.
Yeah, no, I agree. And will Ireland get over the line against New Zealand in Eden Park? They haven't lost there in an awful long time this weekend.
Yeah, I think so. They seem to have a bit of energy. The All Blacks will probably want to get one over on them, but I think 3 from 3 will be a good start. Andy Farrell will be happy with that. There'll be a lot of, he'd be checking off a lot of his key points on his to-do list if they were to do that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Do you think so?
I do. I think they'll win a tight game. I think, I do. Andy Farrell is, in my opinion, a special coach, and he gets the players to the right pitch. They've been winning. It's ugly, but there's a big performance to finish out the year in them, and I think it'll come this Saturday. So I don't think it'll be comfortable. I think it'll be a one-score game, but I do think they'll win. So I can't wait for that game as well. What a weekend we've coming up. Who wins the World Cup? We've picked our final.
The World Cup will be over before we're back on again, and I'd probably just say France, but I wouldn't be surprised if England did it.
And the Open, since we've briefly discussed that this weekend, it'll be also over before we're back on. So are you going to pick Rory?
Rory or Matt Fitzpatrick?
Yeah, I'm going to do
Shane Lowry to score well, to be in the top 10.
I'm going to do Rory, Scotty, Matt Fitzpatrick, Tommy Fleetwood, and Shane Lowry as my top 5. There you go. My dark horse is Cameron Young. So, I love the Open. Should be good. And for me, last one, a quick shout out to Shauna Brown, who won the WBO lightweight title in Essex yesterday. Up and coming boxer, has been a sparring partner of Katie Taylor. So, maybe the next one to shine the light. And that is it. Michael Meehan, it's been a pleasure. So this will be our weekly show. We'll have proper names for the segments next week, and we may or may not have a third party next week. But thanks for the chat. Your insight was brilliant as always, and great week of sport to look forward to.
Yeah. Cheers, Mark.
Talk soon.